my desire to be successful is bigger than my desire to sleep, period. So if I get up early and I can work on my podcast, I can reach out to potential guests, I can edit my own shows, I can upload those shows. I'm not eating into my family time, because at 5 o'clock at night, it's shutting down the phone, it's shutting everything down, and I'm getting solely focused on my family. Now, I'm not 100% on that, but I do try to acknowledge that, you know what, it's 5 o'clock. It's time to put that phone away. It's time to just be present with my family. And so that's why I wake up at 4 a.m.
Welcome to the LandLife Podcast with your host, PJ Riley.
What's going on, guys? Welcome to the LandLife Podcast. My name is PJ Riley. Guys, before we get started, pause what you're doing. Take a second. If you're listening on iTunes, Spotify, any of those places, do me a favor, do me a solid. Leave a review. Just a one-line review. Just one sentence. That's all you got to do. Even if it's negative, you're like, dude, I can't stand your voice, man. I mean, that's something I can't change, but leave the review anyway, right? Guys, if you're on YouTube, like, subscribe, do all those cool things too. That's the only way I'm going to keep getting such awesome guests as Erik here today. He's going to talk about all kinds of cool stuff. Guys, I want to do something really quick too before I get started. I'm getting really good bookkeeping help from a company, and they're not paying me for this. This is just completely on my own. I just want to thank them for that. Reconciled Solutions, reconciledsolutions.net. If you're looking for a good bookkeeper, these guys are awesome. I mean, I have a mess of books. I've bought around 500 properties over the past few years, and just keeping those together has been a nightmare. So I brought these guys in. They are cleaning up all my books for the past, I don't know, at least for this year, and making everything like look like a real business. So I'm not like some schlub, you know, just some guy that doesn't know what he's doing. So anyway, I want to thank those guys. They're pretty awesome. Erik Allen. Okay, here's Erik. He's our guest
Yes,
today.
sir.
I want to give a quick rundown of who you are.
Cool.
Because you got a big, huge, long bio. So I'm going to try to tighten it up a little bit.
Erik
Allen, host of the Erik Allen Show. He runs Erik Allen Media Group. He's had a bunch of other podcasts in the past. These are like top 100 ranked podcasts too. This guy's legit. He's been on Brad Lee's podcast, Dropping Bombs. If you know what Brad Lee is, Dropping Bombs is, it's a very high-end podcast. They don't bring scrubs on. They only bring the best of the best. You've been featured on NASDAQ, been on a guest on 150 podcasts. Dude, you're killing it. Erik Allen, how's it going?
Man, I'm so honored to be here. Thank you so much for the invite, PJ. Excited to get into a conversation with you today, man.
Awesome. I'm so excited to have you on here, dude. I know you're not into MMA right now, but you are an MMA fan.
Yes,
so we'll
sir.
talk about that in a second, and kind of like what happened there.
Yeah.
Erik, what part of the country are you in?
I'm in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. So about 100 miles from Canada, if you're looking at a map.
Wow. Pretty far away. So Erik, just give us like a quick Cliff's Notes version of who you are. I mean, I've heard your story before. It's pretty cool. So kind of start off at the beginning and catch us up to speed to where we are today.
Yeah. I mean, the quick rundown is grew up in a typical household. Parents got divorced when I was 11 years old. My mom got together with a guy who was very physically abusive and used to beat the snot out of her. And when I was 13 years old, around that age, I smacked him in the head with a cast iron pan twice and split his face open, the back of his head open to stop that. And I thought it was the hero. My mom kicked me out about a week or two later and went and lived with my buddy to finish out my last 3 months of my freshman year of high school out in Stevensville, Montana, and then moved back to live with my dad in Washington and got into drugs pretty early. So sophomore year, you know, started smoking pot, doing lots of drugs. I was arrested at 18 while I was still a senior in high school for having drug paraphernalia. It was a bong, which is funny because now it's legal to have a bong in Washington. But in
I live in Denver, man. You're not going to get arrested for that either.
Right. Yeah. So, you know, I was a senior in high school, and so I got arrested for that, and then got kicked out of my dad's house 2 weeks after graduating high school, and basically moved 21 times between ages 18 and 21. Just lived off credit cards. So by the time I was 21, I was $28,000 in debt and battling drug addictions and alcohol addictions. And then 2004, a girl walked into a Starbucks that I was working at out in the Seattle area, asked me to go to a church event. I had no friends. I was depressed. I was like, yeah, man, let's go. And so I go to this event and ended up running into all these guys that I had known like 5-6 years earlier on the other side of the state. So I think God was starting to plant a seed, and it was a month later, Easter 2004. And woke up after a night of partying and just felt God going, dude, you're done. You're going to go down a path that's going to end your life if you don't start making some changes.
Yeah.
And so I quit cold turkey, drugs, drinking, cigarettes, everything in that moment, gave my life to Christ, and called that girl up, got her voicemail and said, hey, happy Easter. Maybe I'll see you at the store sometime. And we've been married for almost 18 years now.
Wow. That's a story.
Yeah. So that's how we are. That's how we got to today, man. So
Wow. That is a pretty intense story right there. Okay. So let's kind of unpack that a little bit.
sure.
So you go to this church group.
Yep.
Who are these guys that you're meeting, and what are they saying to you that's resonating with you, that's appealing to you, especially because you're a guy, you said drugs, depressed, maybe
Yeah.
not a guy that's open to like a lot of positive feedback. So what did these guys say that helped?
Yeah. So what it was right after I graduated high school, I tried the college thing for about a year on the other side of the state of Washington. And so I went and I met some guys there just in my classes and in the weight room and things like that. And these same guys are the dudes I would run into at this church event in Seattle, which is on the other side of the state of Washington 5 years later. And I was
Okay.
like, whoa, dude, I haven't seen you guys forever. What's going on? They've been going to this church. They were getting involved in the pastorship side of things. And so it was just cool to kind of connect with them. I think in that moment, God was planting a seed because it was a month later that it was Easter. And that's when I gave my life to Christ. And it was just kind of this beginning start of me getting away from this crazy lifestyle that I lived for so long.
Yeah. Okay. So you get with these guys, you get in the church, positive things are getting in your brain now,
Yeah.
versus probably the negative crowd you're around when you're talking about drugs. I mean, I don't even, it's not even just negative thoughts. It's negative actions and just down, just not good stuff. Right. So these
Yep.
guys are putting all these nice things, these smart things into your brain now.
Yep.
Okay. We got to
Yeah.
that. Now you're running podcasts, you're coaching people, you're doing all these things. What happened in between there? What's the story that nobody ever tells?
Yeah. So, basically me and my wife, we got married and I got back into sales. I left Starbucks because it wasn't paying me enough money. And so I was like, I got to pay the bills now. I'm a married man. And so did sales for a long time. And then in 2012, I started a company called Top Rated MMA. It was an apparel company. We thought, well, we might be able to get our foot in the door at this MMA apparel company. Time around tap out was kind of the big thing at the time. And,
Yeah.
but I had no business plan. I had no idea what I was doing. I just said, hey, I'm going to put a logo on a shirt and I'm going to call it an MMA company and we're going to take off like crazy and we'll be able to retire. And that obviously didn't happen. But we bought a bunch of swag, shirts, hoodies, and fight shorts. And then we went out in our very first event. We hired John Prince Albert, who was on The Ultimate Fighter at the time, and he was out in Washington State by us. And I paid him $500 to come stand in front of our booth at this first event we launched at. No one knew who we are, but we got John Prince Albert, and we kind of took off from there and started like connecting with all these local fighters from across the states. My Twitter account was blowing up at the time, and it wasn't like probably 3 years later, I got bored with it. I was like, man, I don't know. Maybe I'll put this thing up for sale. And I put it up for sale on Craigslist. Some guy called me up, wanted to pay like $2,500. And it was in that conversation though, that I realized that I wasn't ready to quit. I said, how can I keep this thing going? So in 2017, I started the Top Rated MMA podcast. Again, not knowing what I'm doing. I'm in a walk-in closet, bad lighting, bad microphone. And I just wanted to ask MMA fighters, why do you want to get in a cage and get punched in the face? That was my only goal. And I didn't even know what podcasting really was. I was literally taking this video that I was recording via FaceTime or Skype, I think at the time, didn't do any editing. I'd upload it to YouTube, share that link out to Facebook, and call it my podcast. And it was literally about 100 episodes in that this guy said, hey, how can I listen to it on Apple? And I was like, what the hell is that? I didn't even know Apple Podcast existed.
Yeah.
And so then I was like, oh my gosh, man, I got to start like researching all this stuff. So I just started deep diving into it. How do I get this thing set up? And then it became the #1 MMA podcast out here in the Northwest. I was interviewing local fighters from all over the world and locally, and I was going to events and things like that. It was a great time. I loved it. But in 2019, I came across Ed Milet online, and that's really where I think my passion started to show. Was I love entrepreneurship, and I'm fascinated with people's stories. And it was his show that inspired me to start what is now the Erik Allen Show, the podcast in 2019. And so now I just do that show. I did Top Rated MMA for 3 years, 256 episodes, and or 4 years, excuse me, and just focus on the Erik Allen Show now, man.
That is so awesome. Yeah, Ed Milet seems to be a topic of conversation on every show, partially because we're in Arte and half the group, half the guests on my podcast are members of Ed's group Arte. So
That's awesome.
that kind of helps too. But that guy has inspired a lot of lives, man.
Yeah.
I saw you on, you interviewed him then, correct?
Yeah. So what happened was in 2019, he issued the Max Out Community Challenge on Instagram. He had about 1 million followers, and he said, submit a 1-minute story and tag me on it of why you want to be successful, what drives you to be successful. And I did that. And he kept posting all these things like, oh, here's a top runner, here's a top runner. And I literally wake up one morning and I look at my phone and I've been tagged on a post from Ed Milet. And I was like, what the hell is this?
That's awesome.
And I won the Max Out Community Challenge. That landed me a phone call with him that I was able to record and then release part of that as my episode. So it was episode 12 of my new podcast. I got Ed Milet. You know, prior to him, I had Sean Whalen, and that just opened the door to Brad Lee and Bedros Keuilian and Jim the Rookie Morris and Dan Caldwell and Ken Shamrock. And I just kept rolling. And here we are, almost 200 episodes in on that show now.
Yeah, these are all huge names too, like all the big names in podcasting. So if you're listening to this and you're maybe not familiar with, you know, kind of the bigger names in podcasting and personal growth, coaching, business, that was it. Those are all the names right there. So
yeah,
that's pretty cool. You had a bearded show too. You had a bearded brand show. We don't even need to get into that. What I want to ask you is, where do you find like the I don't know, the energy to do all these things? I mean, it's not easy, like, especially with the podcasting. What do you have, 190 episodes roughly now for your current show?
Yeah, my current show has 184 comes out this week. And then I finished 256 on the previous show that I ran. So,
okay,
yeah,
so a lot of episodes. It takes energy. You got to be on all the time, right? Like the second you hit record, if you're not on, no one's paying attention. Nobody cares.
Totally. Absolutely, right? Man. Gotta have energy.
Yeah, you have to. And you have to have it, I mean, for that period of time. But I mean, it kind of rolls over into life too. But how do you get that level of energy where like you're not just getting, you know, my brother, the gardener down the street, you know, you're getting like the high end guys, they want to be on your show. So how are you able to do that?
Man, it's a combination of one, I wake up at 4 a.m. 6 days a week. So I still work a full-time job. So I know that if I wake up early, then I can get the stuff done that I need to get done before I go downstairs and make my kids lunch and breakfast. And then I start my job at around 8:30 somewhere in there. And people are like, why do you wake up at 4 a.m.? Well, here's the deal. My desire to be successful is bigger than my desire to sleep, period. So if I get up early and I can work on my podcast, I can reach out to potential guests, I can edit my own shows, I can upload those shows. I'm not eating into my family time, because at 5 o'clock at night, it's shutting down the phone, it's shutting everything down, and I'm getting solely focused on my family. Now, I'm not 100% on that, but I do try to acknowledge that, you know what, it's 5 o'clock. It's time to put that phone away. It's time to just be present with my family. And so that's why I wake up at 4 a.m. I drink coffee, heck yeah, all day long, man, because I want to stay awake. And I push hard for 6 days, man. I wake up even on Saturdays at 4 a.m. because I want to make sure that I can get stuff done. Sunday's my chill day, man. I go to church, I take a nap. Like that's my day to just kind of recoup. But man, I'm always just trying to push 110 as much as I can, 6 days a week.
Yeah. How important is being a dad to you?
Man, it is so important, especially the childhood that I came from.
Mm-hmm.
I want my kids to experience a life that I didn't. I want them to, you know, not experience the rejection, the abuse, the addiction that I saw as a kid, right? You know, my parents got divorced. My wife's parents have been married and divorced. Combined, our parents have been married and divorced probably 4 or 5 times. When we said I do, we meant it. And our kids will not see that. Now, we've been married for 18 years. Not every year is going to be rainbows and sunshine. Some years are tougher than others.
Yep.
But for me, man, to be that father to my daughter and my son, so important. I don't want to miss a game. I don't want to miss a play at the school. I don't want to miss a moment at all.
Oh, yeah.
And so that's really a pride for me. My family will come before anything else. And so for me, man, it's so important to be a dad, but not only that, just be a present dad.
Yeah. And same thing, being a husband. How has being a husband and with your background, how has being a husband helped your business and helps your career total in total?
Dude, it fires me up to be successful.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when my wife and I first got married, I was still working at Starbucks and I had to get into sales or get back into sales. And, you know, we bought our first home in 2006, the height of the market, the stupidest time you could ever buy a house. And we bought it in the ghetto of Washington, and we paid like massive amounts of money for it. Our mortgage was like $2,400 a month. and we were both working at the time. But I said, you know what, if we ever go to have kids, and this is like year 2 of being married, we had our daughter 5 years in. When we go to have kids, I want you to be a stay-at-home mom if you want to. I don't want you to be forced to feel like you have to go to work if you don't want to. I want you to be able to be a stay-at-home mom with our kids. And so I was a sales manager, man, and I was kicking butt. Being married drove me to be successful because I knew that that was a goal of mine, to bring my wife home. 6 months after my daughter was born, and she'll be 13 in February, my wife was able to come home and be a full-time mom to our kids. And I haven't turned back. You know, there's been ups and downs, you know, obviously when you're in sales, sometimes you eat like king, sometimes you eat like top ramen, but you know, that's just the way it is. And when we made that move from Washington to Idaho, it was tough, man, because our rent was $900 a month in this house that we were renting. And I was only taking home $600 every 2 weeks. I mean, we were on food. What is it? Food checks or no money order. What is it? I'm trying to think of the word now.
Food stamps.
Food stamps. That's what it is. Yeah. I mean, we're on food stamps. We're on WIC, man. We are barely making it and surviving. But I knew whatever I had to do. I mean, I was working 2-3 jobs at a time just so I could pay the rent and make sure that my wife didn't have to go back to work. And that she really drives me to be successful in everything that I do.
Yeah, I think that's what's really impressive and important to pick out of that story is you guys did anything you had to do to reach the goals you wanted to reach, right? So if it means food stamp, if it means, you know, working extra hours here, if it means putting in a little bit more time here, doing something that's really uncomfortable, like podcasting or doing I mean, all these little things, you do it because you have a goal and you're going to hit that goal, right?
Yeah.
There's not a no involved. It just doesn't exist. It's not, you know, what if it doesn't work out or what if it, you know, what if I look bad? I'm going to do this, you know, it's going to work and here's how I'm going to do it. One thing too, I want to point out too, as a married guy as well, I've been married for 22 years, almost 23 years.
Come on, man. That's awesome, dude.
Bro,
congrats.
I'm telling you. So here's the deal. If you're a young married guy, here's some advice to you. And I'm throwing this out there. You're going to be married to a different person every 4 to 6, 7 years, right? They're going to have different goals, different interests, different things that excite them. You know, maybe they got a new job. Maybe they like working out now. They like going to the gym every day. You're going to be married to a different person. Be ready for that. Be prepared for that. You know, you're not going to marry that 21-year-old girl that you met at the bar or at Starbucks, right? You're not going to marry that person. That person's gone. There's a new person. They mature, they grow. Be prepared for that and accept them at every level that they're at.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Absolutely. Yeah, we did everything we could, man. I mean, I got laid off from a VP of sales job when my wife was 7 months pregnant with my daughter for our first kid. Man, you know, tough. Here I have this big mortgage. I had to humble myself. I had been out of Starbucks for 5 years. I went back to Starbucks and said, hey, I need a job. I was working at Starbucks from 4 a.m. to 9 a.m. I'd get off work, go home, sleep for 2 hours, then go to Trader Joe's and work from 1 p.m. to 11 p.m. at night. And I would go home and sleep for 2 hours. So I split 5 hours of sleep. And I did that for 6 months until I could get back into sales. So I was literally missing my wife every day, except for on Sunday. I would get to bed and out of bed before she would wake up. And so I never saw her except for on Sundays for the first 6 months or for the next 6 months. But I knew at the end goal was I got to find a job that's going to get me to pay my mortgage. And whatever it took, splitting 5 hours of sleep for 6 months, man, it was brutal. But I knew that I had to accomplish that so I could get my wife home. Yeah.
That's pretty awesome, man. Kudos to you for that. Cause I know a lot of guys wouldn't do that. You know, be like, I don't go back to Starbucks. You know, I'm a sales guy now. I'm up here now. You know, they couldn't, but hey, do whatever you got to do to get to that goal. Right. So let's shift gears a little bit. I love that the dad husband talk too, but we got to get into the meat and potatoes of this thing.
Come on.
Right. You're a podcast coach, right? Yeah. So, all right. I have a podcast. It's not easy to do. It is confusing. And at first it was really, really scary. I would say that's the biggest part of it is getting in front of a camera. It's like, I mean, I can stand in front of you now. If we were in the same room, we could talk all day, but talking into a camera, that's kind of weird. You know, that's not easy. All right. So if I'm an aspiring podcaster and I come to you, what does that look like?
Look, I'm going to tell you right off the bat, get used to just staring into the camera. You know, when I first started, I'd be all over the place, right? Like I wouldn't look into the camera And, I'm nervous and shaken, even though there's literally nobody listening to me because I'm not recording live. It's literally just me standing in front of a camera. And, as an early podcaster, get used to just talking to yourself. Like my podcast, I interview people, but I had to get used to hearing my own voice, which is hard enough. I was like, man, that sucks. I mean, you go back to my earliest interviews and I'm like nervous as can be, it's bad microphone, bad lighting, things like that. The other thing that I tell early podcasters is do it because you love it. Don't look at the numbers. I never looked at how many downloads I have had probably 4 years into my podcasting career. I never once cared or how many downloads I have. When sponsors reach out, how many downloads you got? I have no idea. You want to sponsor my show? Then we'll talk on value. I'm not talking about downloads, right? So as a new podcaster, don't worry about downloads. Don't worry about what other people are doing. Do podcasting because you love to do it. And the thing is people get all hyped up like, oh man, I'm nervous about talking in front of people. Here's the thing, practice, record yourself talking in a solo show and then watch it. And then you can release it. But like, if you're coming in a podcast and release 5-8 episodes and then don't start off the bat because that's going to set you behind. You're going to put too much pressure on yourself. Like, oh my gosh, I got to record another episode this week, build up a queue, then release it. And then you're solid. If you have 5 to 8 shows in your queue, then that gives you time to kind of catch up and breathe a little bit, right? And then you can start reaching out to guests if that's what you want to do, or a solo show, whatever it is, but stay consistent. That was a big thing when I first started. I wasn't consistent. Once I got consistent, my show drops every Friday at 7 a.m. Pacific. People started recognizing that, oh man, Eric's show drops this Friday. Eric's show drops at 7 a.m., right? They remember that. But if I'm all over the place, no one's going to remember my name. They're not going to remember my show. So stay consistent as a podcaster.
All right. Consistency. What about equipment though? Like I'm a new guy. Let's say I'm a new young guy looking to do a podcast. And I'm like, all right, I have a laptop here and can I use the camera from that? Can I use my AirPods?
Come on.
To listen? I mean, like what is the equipment you have to have to start a podcast?
You need a phone. That's it.
A cell phone. Well,
that's it.
That's all it is.
Yep. That's all you need. I was trying to reach my phone, but it was out of the way. But yeah, so you can start a podcast on Anchor FM. That's what I started on. I did Anchor for the first 5 years that I was podcasting. And, but it's a great platform. Yeah. Shout out to Anchor, right? And I just recently switched to another company called Blueberry, which I like just because they have different analytics. But Anchor, you can start on your phone, literally create an account and start recording right away. You don't need fancy equipment. When I first started, I had a snowball microphone. I had a $50 webcam on my laptop. You could use the FaceTime one that's on your laptop if whatever one's built in, that's fine too. But look, I always recommend have headphones in and then have your camera rolling and have a nice a mic. It doesn't have to be super expensive. I've upgraded my microphone 4 times since I started. I've upgraded my camera 4 times. I've now have lights in my office, right? So there's things that you upgrade over time. Don't try to go all in because you're going to get confused. Even myself, I get confused about technology. I just want something simple to plug in, right? Like I just want to be able to look into the camera and start talking to my guests, man. I'm fascinated with people's stories. And so for equipment, man, if you just want to start right away, grab a phone and just start talking. You don't even have to release it. Just start talking. Here's the thing about podcasting is I went to a conference earlier this year. And one of the guys asked, how many of you in the crowd know what your great-great-grandfather did for a living? There was like 1 person out of 50 that raised their hand.
Wow.
But here's the thing. If we're podcasters, my great-great-great-grandkids will be able to see and hear and feel my energy as long as the internet's around, which I don't think it's going anywhere.
I don't think so. I think this one's going to stick.
Yeah. So it's like they can see videos, they can hear my voice, they can see my energy, right? Podcasting is massive. Even if you're not talking to anybody, think of the legacy that we'll get to see you as a grandma or grandfather generations down the road.
Yeah, absolutely right. Okay, so I got my new podcast. I'm on there. I'm using my phone. I'm starting to buy new equipment maybe here and there. Nobody's listening. Nobody's watching though. At least I don't think.
Yeah.
How do I move up the ranks? How do I get a little bit more people watching, listening, paying attention to my show?
Yeah. Really, what it comes down to is you want to be able to share that out with people and you want to get ratings and reviews. Okay. And you did a great job. You called that out at the beginning of this podcast. People don't realize that the rating and review can help our shows expand more, right? Like if you can get ratings and reviews, even if it's your friends and family, like shoot them a DM and say, hey, do me a favor, leave me an honest review. Here's my link. Like set them up for it. Don't make them go find it, right? Set them up. Here's a link. Leave a rating, leave a review, hit that follow button. Help me, right? Support me in this venture, right? I want to be able to make an impact. And if I can get that done, awesome. And those aren't the only factors, but it's sharing, it's time listening, right? So if you can engage people early on with your show, they're going to want to hang out more, right? And I release my show audio and video. Sometimes the audios kill the video. Sometimes the videos kill the downloads on the audio side of things.
Yeah.
I do it because I love it. I do podcasting because I love it. I don't worry about the numbers. If I have 10 downloads or 10,000 on a week, I don't care. But getting those reviews and rankings consistently, that's what helps you get ranked on the Apple podcast charts and things like that. You know, I ranked 102 on the Apple podcasts, or excuse me, 132 on the Apple podcast in 2021. And then in the UK, I ranked 202. Somehow I got over there. And so, you know, consistently releasing your show will help you in that and getting those rankings and reviews and getting exposure on the Apple charts there.
Wow. And so 132, two, whatever, any these super high numbers. How many podcasts are out there? There's like what, 200,000?
2 million.
2 million podcasts. So getting ranked 132 in the United States, when there's 2 million podcasts out there, that ain't bad, man. That's a pretty good year. You had a pretty good score there.
Yeah, not too bad, man, for sure. And here's the thing about podcasting, though, is if you want to be successful in podcasting, stick with it. If you I read a statistic, I don't know, I read it online, so you never know how true it is, but like 90%,
I get all my health advice.
Right, totally. 90% of podcasters stop before they hit episode 50. And once they hit episode 50, another 90% before they hit 100 will stop as well. So if you just continue to do your show, you'll be ranked. And, according to Listen Notes right now, my show's like top 2.5% globally, right? Which I'll take it, but again, I don't really worry about the numbers. It's cool to see every once in a while, like, yeah, that's awesome, right? But I do it because I love people. And the podcasting opens up so many doors of relationships and opportunities and partnerships, man. And I just tell people, like, just do it. Like, get your story out there, whatever you're passionate about, start talking about it, and the right people will come, and the right people will start listening, and the right people will start opening up their doors for you to connect with them.
Yeah. So as far as getting listeners, I get emails and messages, people telling me they can help my podcast get better, right? They can help it get more ratings. Not only are they going to come in and they're going to edit it all for me, they're going to get me ranked top 100 and do all these things. How legitimate are these companies, and how likely is that going to happen?
It depends on who you work with. There are some good companies out there that can help you do that. There's a lot of scam people out there that will tell you they can do that. I get hit up at least 3 times a day on LinkedIn or Instagram saying I'm a podcast promoter and I'll promote your podcast.
Yeah.
I've never even looked at their website. I don't even care to. I've had some friends, they pay like $125 a month to have all these people all over the world in India and all this stuff, like start, promoting your show and things like that. And they get really high downloads, but they're paying for it. And I just don't pay for things, man. It's all organic with me. I've never paid for ads. I've never paid for marketing. I've never paid somebody to do anything for me. I do everything myself. I do all the editing, all of that, man. You can find legit companies. I've talked with legit companies out there that can do some good stuff, but do your research. Make sure that you know who they are before you go and jump into somebody to have them start doing editing. And I do have editors that I can work with if people want. Like, I can refer them to you. Just reach out to me. I'm happy to do that.
That's awesome, because I don't think the big guys, Ed Milet, Andy Frisella, any of those big podcast guys, really need to pay for it. Right. They build a real product that people actually want to listen to. You start listening to those guys for a while and you're like, wow, I really like this. I want to keep listening to it. And that's how they get higher ranks. It's not like they're paying a bunch of, people on Instagram to bump them up in the rankings. So build a quality product first is what you're saying. And then the follows will come right behind it.
Yeah. And you don't need to have the Ed Milets or Brad Lees on your podcast to be successful as a podcaster. You just have to be consistent and have great stories that are actually entertaining content, right? Like, there's probably in your own town thousands of people that have amazing stories and amazing businesses that you could connect with that would probably grow your business much faster than all the attempts it would take to get the Ed Milets or Brad Lees on your podcast, right? Build up to that, sure. But don't leave out the low-hanging fruit that's right in front of you in your own town that can help you build up that show just by having them on your show.
Yeah. And go online. If you,
Yeah,
that's where we connected,
totally.
I
Yep.
was looking for a guest, and you were one of those guys that's like, you told me your story. I'm like, holy cow, definitely.
Yeah.
This guy's solid. So, you can always go online, go onto Facebook, Instagram, and those kinds of places. Where are you
Yep.
getting all your guests for your show? Where do you find guests?
I book 99% of my guests through Instagram DM.
Wow.
And here's the thing is when I first started reaching out to guests or potential guests in the early days, I did the same thing that everybody else does. They have a template and they change the name at the top and they send that in the DM.
Yes.
It doesn't work. It doesn't work at all. Here's exactly what you should do to book people on your podcast, even the big names. This works every time. I've never had someone say no. I've had some people ignore it, but the majority of people that I reach out to be a guest on my podcast have all said yes. Again, I've never had a no. I just pull out my phone and I literally look into the camera and I figure out who I'm talking to. So if I'm calling Ed, I'll be like, Ed, what's going on? It's Erik Allen. I'm out in Coeur d'Alene where you're at. And man, your house is amazing. Your new book, Power One More, is absolutely awesome. Let me help you promote that on my podcast. Let's chat soon. Boom. 30 seconds, video, send in the DMs. It'll work. That's it. I don't add any text. I just send the video because it intrigues them to, why is this guy sending me a video? Right. So they'll pop it open. Right. I might put something under like, hey, Ed, what's up? It's Erik, man. Please check out the video. I've got some good information for you. I want to help you promote it or something like really short. They don't have time to like read a novel of who you are and da, da, da. They don't even care. The reason that they'll come on your podcast is what value can you bring them? So start with that in your video. Find something that they're doing, they're promoting, they're an event or whatever. Hey, let me help you promote that and come on my podcast and let's chat about it. 9 out of 10 times, they're going to jump on that every time.
That's huge. Let me help you promote that. Like the book you just said, The Power of One More.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me help you. So then as a person looking to get guests, then would you be kind of scouring Instagram like, oh wow, this person looks smart, this person looks good, I kind of like what this guy's saying, and then just send them a video?
Totally. That's all I do.
That's all it is. There's nothing special. There's no formula, nothing, no company they need to go register with to get started on that.
No. And I've never paid for guests to come on my show.
That's funny.
I just don't.
Hilarious thing. I think when people ask you for money, I'm like, no, I'm not going to pay you, buddy.
Now, I will say this. I have earned money from guests being on my show. And it's because I have a set list of guests that I am targeting to come on my show. It's the bigger names. It's some of these guys that I'm targeting. Right.
Yeah.
And I get a lot of people reaching out, hey, I want to be a guest on your show. Okay, cool. If I allow you to come on my show, you're taking me off my target list. So if you want me to get off my target list, I have to charge you a fee. And I charge $500 for people who want to come on my podcast. If they reach out to me inbound, if I'm reaching out to them, I'm not going to charge them. Okay. If they're reaching out to me and they're saying, hey, I want to be on your show. Great. It's $500 and your show will jump the line and I'll release it in 2 weeks and we'll be good. Right.
Nice.
And I've done that for the last 4 years. And I probably have 1 or 2 guests every couple months. Just pop in and pay $500. Cool. No problem. I'll take it. But I just don't pay people to come on my show. Yeah. Right. Like even the bigger names I've never paid for. You have to have that connection with them. You don't have to go through a podcast agency or anything like that. Right. You can if you want to, but if you just do the work, you'll get the right guests. Yeah.
So this kind of leads me then to my next question. Monetizing a podcast, right?
Yeah.
If you go on YouTube, you see all these videos. Here's how you monetize your podcast. $500 a pop. That sounds pretty nice. I'll talk to somebody for $500. If you're listening to this, Erik didn't pay me anything. I'm not that guy. I didn't. If I would have known Erik, I would have sent you a Venmo request or something.
Right.
But
awesome.
Since I didn't know that yet, next time our follow up, you're gonna get a bill from me. But so okay, yeah. How do you monetize a podcast? How do you do it?
So yes, lots of different ways. A lot of times you can just do that with affiliate marketing. If you don't know what affiliate marketing is, it's the products that you use. This Shure microphone, you can be an affiliate for Shure. You just tell people about it, and if they click on your link and they go buy, you make money. Right? You can become an Amazon associate, and you can promote anything on Amazon on your website, and it can be from books to mice to household products, right? And if people click on that and then go and buy something on Amazon, you're getting a commission. So those are just easy ways. I also have sponsorship spots on my show. So I allow people to pay for a month or 3 months or 6 months contract to be a sponsor of my show. And they can just have the basic package where their logos on my website and they get a shout out a week and they, get added to the show notes. I also have a 30 and 60-second spot. Price increases on each of those. I only do 1 month at a time. Sometimes I'll do 3 or 6 and it's discounted if they want to pay that up front. But that's just another way. Here's a trick. Nobody, at least that I've come in contact with, has done this, but I actually earn the majority of my sponsors through Fiverr.com. And I literally have a gig on Fiverr and I just say, promote your product on my podcast. And that's my gig. That's what people pay for. So people can go to my Fiverr profile, pay me money, and I don't even have to promote it. Fiverr promotes it. They submit an order. I take it, I put it on my website and I get paid. So I've probably earned a little over $5,000 from Fiverr over the last 3 years, just from sponsorships of my podcast.
No kidding.
All I did was put a gig up there. Yeah. So, and I'm actually getting ready to launch micro sponsorships coming in 2023. And really all that is that's for those guys who don't have the thousands of dollars or hundreds of dollars to put in each month. I'm going now to offer an opportunity to folks. Maybe they want to pay $25 to have their logo on my website. And that's all they'll get. It's just a logo on my website. Right. But I'm going to open that door. If people want to pay $25 a month, guess what? Their logo can go on my website. If they want to pay $50, maybe I'll add their website and social media pages, right? Just real basic. It's this micro kind of foot in the door and we move them up from there. But that's going to be launching in January.
Okay. Is that like a Patreon type deal?
It's probably similar. Yeah. I'll just have them, it'll go through me directly, but yeah, similar to that. I don't know that they would get any like special, behind the scenes stuff. I don't have time for that, but just if they want to come support the show and they can be, have their logo on the website for as low as $25, then yeah, we might do that.
Okay. And you coach people to do podcasting, correct? You're a podcast coach. Okay. Yep. So if somebody wanted to get in contact with you for that specific business or that endeavor, how would they do that?
ErikAllenMedia.com is the website. It's ERIK. You can just reach out to me on that, or I don't want to say I'm big on Instagram. That's my favorite social platform.
Kind of a big deal. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So, but I do respond to every DM and I respond to every comment. So if you have questions or want to look at that, my link tree's in there. You can go right to this page. My video course is 28 videos and we deep dive in from the very beginning. What's the thought process behind podcasting? To how do you get the big names? And I walk through everything in there. It's 28 videos long. Plus, when you buy the course, you get a month-long sponsorship on my website just for buying the course.
Sweet. Guys, if you're looking to get started on podcasting and you want to kind of skip ahead, it's kind of like a cheat code. Like I always say that. Yeah. Coaches are like a cheat code for life or for business or whatever you're trying to do, right?
Yeah.
So it gets you from day one where you're fumbling with the camera, you don't know what to do, where to look, to all the way to, kind of a higher level where you're ready to come and present. Maybe not as good as Erik, but close.
Well, I'm always learning. One of the things that Ed said to me when I talked to him was he said the acronym CANI, constant and never ending improvement. And nice. That's in my office, man. And so when I walk in the office, like, oh man, how can I improve today? What can I do better today? And I'm always trying to tweak things in my podcast. How can I edit better? How can I, tweak the video, or what platform can I use? I used to use Zoom. I use Riverside now. And I try to upgrade or tweak things as much as I can.
Yeah. We were out with Ed spoke a few weeks ago in Nashville for an RTA event. Yeah. Did you go to that?
No, I didn't, but I had a buddy go. He said it was awesome.
Okay. Yeah, it was awesome. So, and he says he's dedicated to excellence, right? He's obsessed with excellence. So in every part of his life, he's going to try to figure out how to be excellent. And I thought, man, that's great. That takes the stress off of just financial, right? So it's like family, fitness, finances, all those things. You can dedicate yourself to excellence. So you're not only thinking about how can I make $1 million or $1 billion this year, right?
Yeah, totally, man. Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. Are we missing anything, Erik? I want to make sure I'm not missing anything with you. You got a lot to talk about.
Dude, I love this conversation, man. It's so good, dude. You're a great host, man. And if people aren't listening to your show, they're missing out, man. Being a guest on 150 plus podcasts, man, this is definitely one of my faves, man. I appreciate you.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it, dude. Erik, that's really awesome, man. And coming from a guy like you that's been on all the big time shows and you were on Dropping Bombs. Did you drop any bombs? I listened to it, but I don't.
I think so. I mean, I don't know. It was an interesting interaction with Brad. So
Yeah.
Brad's a great dude.
Yeah.
He was a guest on my podcast. And one thing that I like to do to keep the relationship going with people that have been on my show is about once a quarter, maybe once every 4 or 5 months, I shoot a video back to them in their DM on Instagram and just say, "Hey, what's going on? I hope you're doing great. Hey, I saw that you posted this. If I can help you out with anything, let me know." It's continuing that relationship with those guys. I did that one time to Brad about 6, 7 months after he was on my show. And I was like, man, I'm doing my goal is to be a guest on 100 podcasts this year. And I've recorded like 70, and man, we're just slamming. And he responded back, "Fly to Vegas, we'll get you on the show." And I was like, what? Mind blown.
Ticket. Yeah,
Bought my ticket, flew out the next day. I was down in Vegas 24 hours. I got there at 11 p.m. I recorded at 12 p.m. the next day, and I flew home after the recording. And, he was a great dude, a great host. His office is awesome. It was cool just hanging out with him, smoking cigars in the back patio, right? Like hanging out in his office. Excellent guy. I don't know if I dropped bombs or then, we shared our story, and that was pre kind of me getting into like coaching podcasts. I hadn't even really started it. I was like, oh, I'm thinking about doing this. I had a lot of people reach out to me at the time afterwards, and actually did get clients that listened to that show that hired me before I even put my course together. They said, "Erik, I just want you to coach me." Cool. I mean, the other thing that we're working on right now is I'm about 22,000 words into my book that comes out in probably Q1 of next year. So yeah, man, we're working on that, and it'll be a biography sort of on myself, my story, but really it's sharing how people can share their story and the power of podcasting. And so I'm going to combine my story and kind of give tips on how you can feel comfortable getting uncomfortable, and then how that you can use podcasting to benefit like your life and relationships and get free things out of podcasting, man. And so that's what the book's going to be about, man. That's going to drop in Q1 of next year, I think.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So other than the coaching, how can people get hold of you?
Instagram is Erik G. Allen. It's Erik G. Allen. And then just erikallenmedia.com is the website. Probably the best two places you can get a hold of me. We'd love to subscribe on my YouTube channel. We're trying to build that up right now. That's my big focus is Instagram and YouTube right now. But yeah, reach out to me. Happy to connect with people, answer any questions. Feel free to shoot me a DM. And man, I love this stuff, man. I love getting on and just helping people and having awesome conversations.
It is fun, man. We would never have met if it weren't for this, right?
Yeah,
like just totally. This conversation would have never happened. Two separate parts of the country. So it's kind of cool that we can anybody can do it.
Yeah,
anybody can do it. Like, I mean, you may write it. You shoot out a message and get on Brad Lee's podcast. You may shoot out a message and get on the LandLife podcast.
Come on.
Right. It's little levels. It's all about levels, right? You got to work your way up. Sure. But you could get to you could get to bigger podcasts and get some cool conversations with people. So
yeah,
it's really super cool. All right. Are you ready for the final question, Erik?
Bring it, man. Let's do it.
This is like a Mensa level. This is big. I mean, I hope you said only 1 year of college.
Yeah, off and on. I dropped out. I was like,
this might be tough for you, man. This might be tough. This is a big one.
Awesome. Okay.
All right. If we are LandLife. I buy and sell dirt all over the country.
Okay.
Dirt and trees all over the country. Now, if you could buy land anywhere in the world, the whole world, where would it be and why?
I haven't done much traveling, but man, I love Idaho, dude. I love the mountains of Idaho. I'd move about north where I'm at, probably 50 miles into the mountains there. But that's it, man. I wouldn't move far from where I'm at. I'm awesome. 5 minutes from mountains and hiking and fishing and hunting, all of that within a 5-mile radius. My wife and I combined with our two vehicles put 6,500 miles on our vehicle last year. Wow. Like we don't have to go outside of really our big radius to go to the wild or go camping or go hunting or whatever that is. This is the spot, man. And if you're from California and you're leftist, don't come up here. But listen, that's what
instead of Denver too.
Right. Yeah, totally. So but yeah, I mean, I think up here, man, I would love it up here, man. And that's my goal. I literally have it on my wall. And everyone thinks it's the funniest goal ever, but it says, if I can't pee off my front porch, my neighbors are too close. And so for me, that's a goal. Like, I want the property that I can just go walk and pee off my front porch and the cops aren't going to come, man. Like, I'll do whatever the hell I want because it's my property.
Dude, I'll tell you. Okay. Here's a little secret, an inside scoop into the land world.
Love it.
I have done that on many a property. I've owned around 500 properties, and it's not a flex. It's just the truth.
Yeah, yeah,
Now,
yeah.
a lot of times, I mean, I very rarely go and see properties, but sometimes if I'm really excited about a property, I'll drive all the way out there. Let's say it's a 3.5 hour drive, right? The
Yeah.
last maybe, I don't know, usually 30 miles or so, there's no gas stations.
Right.
You're not stopping.
Yeah.
So to pee off onto my own property and no one can see it has been done.
That's awesome. I
So
love
I
it,
don't have
man.
a house there, but it's been done. So
You're an inspiration for me, man.
you know,
Inspiration.
it's kind of a weird way to be an inspiration in life. I
That's
wish I could say it was something else, like I save people out of a burning building or something, but
yeah.
no, I've gone to the bathroom on dirt that I own.
Come on. That's awesome, man. It's the best way to be.
Right on, Eric. I appreciate it, man. Thank you so much for coming on.
Oh, it's such an honor to be here, man. I really appreciate it. This is an amazing show, man. You're an absolute world changer, brother.
Thank you very much, guys. Yeah, guys, till next time, I'll see you on LandLife.